Hearing, we're going to move on to public education because as we're not only just concerned with the wages and benefits, but also the opportunities moving forward. And in order to do that, you need to have a good public education system. I will pass those out. Oh, all right. Are you going to do that? Okay. You want the microphone? Just
don't move too much. All right, my name is Ian Phillips. I'm with New York State United Teachers. It's a little misleading of a union, but we have 18,480 members in Onondaga County alone. And yes, we represent teachers, but we also represent teachers' aides, bus drivers, food service workers, healthcare workers, and upstate. So I just wanted to preface that. I'm talking about education. Lori actually asked me to speak on the Triborough Amendment, which is really important for those of you who are going to be elected in November, because you'll be on the management side. Boom, management. So I'm going to start with that because then I get really worked up when talking about education, and I might move more during that part. You won't be able to hear me, and I'll go long.
You guys have the extra ones?
There's more coming around. On the other side, I think I put 2/3 on this side and 1/3 on that side. And if we run out, I'll run out to make copies. So I want to start with the Triborough Amendment. So basically 35 years ago, roughly, the Triborough Amendment was passed after public sector unions, so that's teachers, but that's also police, firefighters, anyone who works in the public sector. They were going on about 28 strikes per year. The Triborough Amendment was supported by both management and labor to prevent those numbers of strikes from happening. So the Triborough Amendment basically states that if a contract expires, you cannot reduce or change the benefits in that expired contract. What management got out of it was that it made it illegal to strike. So since that time, the most we've had of public sector strikes is 4, and most years we have 0, as you know. So teachers you don't see going on strike too often, police, firefighters, and that's a good thing. They don't want to be on strike. So that's why a lot of times NICOM, some of you will, when you get elected, will join, and they will push to get rid of the Triborough Amendment because it's too powerful. It makes unions too powerful. There's another side of that, and there's radicals like myself and Mark and Lori, that if you get rid of the Triborough Amendment, we might want to go on strike if you bust up our contract. So there's good things for both sides, management and labor, in the Triborough Amendment. So when NICOM brings that up at their meetings, we urge you to stand up and shout them down about why you want to keep Triborough. I'm going to jump on to education now. So that's on page 8 and 9 of your sheets. If you want to follow along, that's the teacher thing to do. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to actually read to you from that. I passed out another piece of paper, which is the only thing that's not covered in there. I'm actually not going to talk to you about many of the things that are in that packet. I'll let you look at that on your own. I wanted to touch on a couple of things, and I think there's really 2 professions where everyone is an expert, or at least thinks they are an expert. One is politics. So I'm sure all of you running for office have gotten tons of unsolicited advice, both from smart people and people who think they're smart. So about what you should do and all those things. The other is teaching. Okay, so everyone voted, or many people vote, so they think they know how to run for office. And everyone went to school at one point or a time and had a good teacher and a teacher they didn't like. So everyone thinks they're an expert on how to teach. And politicians are no exception. So in the last few years, politicians of both parties have, in the name of reform, gone after the profession of teaching. So this sheet that I just handed out to you, I want to talk about the problem, and then I want to talk about what solutions are being proposed. In the next 5 years, about 1/3 of the teachers in New York State will retire. Okay? So That's just looking at the straight up people that are eligible to collect their full pension. Now, enrollment in teacher education programs in New York State have gone from about 80,000 to around 40,000 in just the last 5 years. Okay, so this rhetoric has an effect. So now what are people proposing? What are the politicians in Albany proposing? The latest solution to this problem that they see looming, especially in our big city schools, is we're going to change the requirements. So if you want to teach in a charter school, this is being proposed right now, and SUNY is voting on it, you only need to have 30 hours of teacher preparation in the classroom. Okay, so there's going to be a teaching requirement for people who want to teach in charter schools and urban schools, and then a different set of teachers that teach in the suburbs in other schools. Okay, so they're basically trying to bifurcate the teaching profession. So that is it's probably going to go through. It was the agreement that was reached in this most recent budget, that SUNY has the ability to do this, and SUNY's committee doesn't have to answer to anyone. So that's one way. The other way, which I think is simpler, is just respect our teachers and treat them fairly and not bash them. Folks have a very tough job. A lot of the people you heard from today also have a tough job, so teachers aren't any different. But it does have an effect, and we're not going to be able to fill these positions. So if we want to just downgrade the teaching profession, I guess that's one way of tackling it. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, charters are mentioned, but that's a pretty hot topic as well. So there's actually a hearing tonight for a charter school that I wasn't able to go to. But charters are not bad in that there's certainly well-intentioned people that start them and work at them. Charters are detrimental to public education because they take money from public schools and send them to charter schools. Then those charter schools do not have oversight. So some, like the Gulen Academies, they bring over teachers from Turkey, pay them $50,000, and then they have to tithe $20,000 of that back, which then goes to the Gulen foundations, which they use to try to overthrow the Turkish government. That's a real thing. Look it up, and we have those in Syracuse and Utica. But bigger than that is they don't overperform public schools. Okay, so that's a myth. You might have one or two here or there that are held up as the big example. Success Academies is one of those in New York City. Success Academies, it was found from teachers who left, had a gotta go list, is what they called it, where they tried to counsel children out as young as 5 years old out of their schools. I taught in Detroit Public Schools. Detroit has got a ton of charters. What would happen every year is leading up to a test and after they got money from the state, students would be kicked out of these charter schools, whether it was through test scores, because of test scores, or because their behavior they couldn't handle in the charter school. So my classroom, my 8th grade classroom, my last year I taught, went from 22 kids to 45 kids in the classroom. And we couldn't get more teachers because the charter school already got the money for the kids for that year that were in their classroom. So it's not that charters don't have great, well-intentioned people. Lots of people think they know how to run a school and think they could do better. But it's the detrimental effect it has on all the rest of the kids that are in those public schools. So I want you to think about that when you hear a great new charter is opening up in town.
I have a question, Mr. Phillips.
Yeah.
I noticed that I'm a former teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that you lumped, for want of a better term, the charter schools with urban schools versus suburban schools.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain for all of us why you put urban and charter, which are two different animals, into that same concern a generic definition of both of those. Reason I'm asking, when I undertook my program in the 80s, there was a separate program in SU's education school, which was called the Urban Education Curriculum. And that was a separate, somehow a separate animal from general education. So I thought if you could explain the dichotomy now, that would help us.
Yeah, I didn't mean to lump those together, so I apologize in some ways for doing that. I think they're often lumped together because where do charters pop up? They pop up first, at least in cities. And that's where they do the most harm initially, but in some states, like Michigan where I taught, they start in the cities and then they start to spring up all over the place. As far as the urban education program, I mean, I have my own personal thoughts, but standing up here as a member of NASA, I don't want to delve too deeply in those.
I don't think it exists anymore.
There are definitely programs that exist, maybe not at SU anymore.
I just want to verify the distinction between, or the setup of the charter school, just a simple definition, and the urban versus suburban dimension. I'm just trying to figure those out.
A definition of charter school?
Yes.
Okay, so a charter school doesn't, the simplest way is they are granted a charter from New York State. New York caps it at around the 500 across the state, so that's where the word charter comes from. There's a board that forms that group, but it is not a locally elected board. So the simplest way is there's no local control. It fosters the control over to some private group of charter board members. That's the simplest way to kind of probably define it legally. And then, I don't know how, you want me to define urban versus suburban?
No, those
Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions? Tim?
Are teachers at charter schools members of NYSA, and if not, do they do some kind of reciprocity with the same wages and benefits?
Some of them are. So we have a small number of members that are in charter schools. We actually have members that are in private schools as well. I don't reciprocity as far as wages. They have separate contracts. So, we have a different contract for every employer, or in some schools we have separate units. So we'll have a teacher's unit, a teacher's assistant unit, and then maybe we call them SRPs, school-related professionals. They're in a different unit, and they have different contracts that they negotiate with the school districts. Any other questions?
The charter schools held to the same standards, the same measurements as public schools.
In many ways, no. So one of the things is there was an audit that the comptroller did and found out that they had a ton of money in reserves, which local school districts are required to pay down. They aren't required to teach the same curriculum. Some of them are required to give the state tests, and some of them get out of that in various ways. And in my experience, most of this is in Michigan. When I was in the classroom, there's a ton of test prep time that happens in the lead up to state tests in charter schools that public schools, for good reason, just don't do. So sometimes that affects things.
Follow up to special needs students, other services, they provide same types of services that charter schools do.
In most cases, no. I think the governor and state officials tried to stop what they were calling creaming, trying to pick and choose their students. So there's some laws that try to get at that, but these folks are pretty good at what they officially call counseling students out who aren't a good fit. They have parents sign parental contracts, and then they, just kind of chastise the parents over and over again until the parents decide, oh, this is too much of a hassle, and they, on their own, take their children out of the schools. Yeah.
Does NYSA have any particular policy agenda around better funding for specifically the city of Syracuse, such as equitable funding formula, so the schools get better funding?
Yeah, we wrote a friendly brief, our legal department did, for the CFE case, which, while there wasn't an overwhelming one statewide, it is hopefully, who knows how quickly, but it will get additional funds for Syracuse schools. So absolutely. All right, I think that's my time. I'm sorry. Fair? Quick question?